Hey everyone, on this week's episode, we are learning from our special guest, agent in the DFW area, April, on the home buying process from start to finish, the misconceptions and just mistakes not to make if you're buying your home for the first time or if you're reselling. So make sure you grab your notepad and tune into this episode.
I feel you watching me, pull up across the room. I think you like the view. You gonna make a move. I don't make this easy for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Good Luck Sis. I'm your host, Ellie.
And I'm your host, Tati J.
And today we have an amazing episode for you. We are going to be diving into the home buying process. What does that look like from start to finish? And we have a guest with us. I know this guest because, guys, she's my realtor. So shout out to her. Without her, I wouldn't be in my home today.
You wouldn't see this lovely studio.
Yeah, we wouldn't be seeing this. So we have April with us. I could introduce her, but I'm going to give it to her. I'm going to pass it over to her so she can go ahead and introduce herself, tell us about herself, and we'll dive right into the episode.
Yes, thank you for having me. This is really fun. Yeah. First time for me, so we'll see how it goes. So I'm a real estate agent here in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. I'm top producer and I'm a mom of two. And so, yeah, I'm excited to be here. I can't wait to answer your questions.
We're so happy to have you here also. And I think at this age, everyone's diving into, like at 20, everyone's diving into the new home buying process. I know I think my parents bought their first home when they were about late 30s. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to see, the hard work that they put in so they can buy their house. And it's just, culturally buying your house is like one of the most rewarding thing. And maybe not culture, just anybody just thinks like buying your home. It's like that major, like, oh, wow, this is the biggest responsibility ever. So I know that a lot of us millennials we're in that era where we're trying to buy our house. And some of us already have bought our house and it was either hard work and we're learning through the process. So I'm hoping today for this episode that we can share some information with some people out there that really want to understand what is it like? What are the steps from start to finish on the buying process? What are the challenges? What are the awards? What's really out there? Because like with the media, TikTok, Instagram, there's so many information out there. So it's just like, you don't know what to believe. You don't know where to go because it's just like, there's a lot. So I'm happy that we have you here so you can share some information with us and our listeners and our audience. So to kick it off, we're going to just dive into, can you explain to us what does it look like from start to finish, the buying process?
Yes. So initially, I really like to sit down with the clients. I like to do it in person, but that's not always the case. Some of the clients are relocating out of state, but getting that first conversation out there with them and finding out their finances, what they're looking for, what does the next few years look like to them. And then we discuss the importance of getting a pre-approval first, talking to the lender. So you want to know what their credit situation is like, what their finances are like. Once you get that pre-approval, which generally takes about 48 hours, it really kind of depends on the client and how quickly they can get their documents into the lender. And then once we get that pre-approval and kind of know where we're going to be looking at what that budget looks like, we kind of narrow down the areas and then where their commute is if they do commute. And then the fun starts, then we look for their home. And so, I really try to let them know during that time to really focus on their needs, because everybody has this big expectation of, I want to have this big grand house. And, when you're a first time home buyer, especially, we start and then we gradually move up. Right. So if you're approved for $400,000, let's maybe start in the low to mid threes. And then if we're not finding what you like, gradually increase, the price point up to your pre-approval amount. And then once you find your home, you get into contract, and then the negotiations start, right?
Mm-hmm.
A home inspection is important, whether it's a new build or a resale home. And then appraisal, and then you get the keys. It seems overwhelming to a lot of people at first, but when you have a really good agent on your side, they're walking you through every step of the way to try to take that stress off of you, because it's stressful regardless. If you're building a home from the ground up, there's a little bit more stress than buying a resale home, just because now you've got to choose the features of your home, and there's just so many different variables that come in with a new build. But
one thing you mentioned that I never thought of, but I think is really smart, is that if you get pre-approved for $400,000 starting in the 3 range, I think a lot of people, okay, well, $400,000, let's go look for $400,000. But I think doing that makes it a little bit more realistic to know what this would look like, what the features include, how many bedrooms. And I know, like, even just like the wedding process, people say if your dress, your budget's $5,000, you don't want to look at anything over, because then you're going to fall in love and then you're going to want to buy something. So I think starting low is a very smart step. I never even thought about that.
Yes.
I do want to pinpoint back on what you said about having the right agent is very important. As I mentioned, April was our agent. And when me and Andy were out there looking at houses, we did it for fun. We were looking at model homes. Texas has beautiful model homes.
And that's usually where it starts. Everybody.
So it's so fun. And we're like falling in love with all these different houses, talking to agents, because, not agents, I mean, like talking to the sellers.
Reps.
The reps. And the reps are like, in your face. They're there like, what do you think? Well, yeah. So it's just like, they start asking you questions. So there's this one home that I loved. I was like, this is the house. I really wanted it. And we started talking to the rep, and it was just like the questions he was asking us, I didn't have the answers. I didn't know the right questions to ask. And then we finally got April in the picture, and April was asking the right questions, messaging the person. And once we got April in the picture, he kind of like stepped away in the sense of like a threat. Like they tried to low key,
they're working for the builder.
They working for the builder. Yeah. So it's just like, they could literally like just sell you lies. But when your agent is there, there's like that threat, like, oh, they got a lawyer, Loki. Like there's someone's on their side. So it's very important for you to have an agent and the right agent there to ask the right questions. Like when April's there asking questions, I'm just like, yep, that's my agent. She's asking the questions, and she asks the right questions because the stuff she's saying, I don't know them. So it's just like after she says, I'm like, okay, wow, and then I ask her questions after. So it's important, very important to have the right agent.
It's funny that you say that, because the audience knows that I'm in the medical profession, nurse, nurse practitioner. And there's certain things, like if I go to appointments with my mom, certain questions I ask, or certain comments like, what do you do for work? And I'm just like, not saying that they are trying to take advantage of her, but it's like, you don't know the questions to ask for things. And it's just like you said, if this was me, I'd be like, okay, the only question, so how much is the house? Like that's the only question I would know to ask. That's it. And that's all. Yeah. So it's like, once someone sees like, oh, there's someone here who actually knows what they're talking about, you tend to see like, okay, so let me actually give the full disclosure, or like, let me be on my P's and Q's a little bit more. So definitely, I 100% agree with that.
Right.
Yes.
So in your experience, when is the best time to start home buying process, and what factors should potential buyers consider on when it's the right time to begin?
So really looking at their overall financial picture, and also, I guess just what their timeline is on purchasing a home, or when they're looking to purchase a home, and their debt. So you just want to look over everything, credit, your financial situation. And really, I always say at least 4 to 6 months before you go to buy a home to talk with a lender, but really having that conversation with a real estate agent will help you know if you need to start that process a little bit longer. Because if you do have some hurdles to overcome on the credit side, it doesn't mean you can't buy a house. I always tell people it's not that you can't, it's just not now. Right. So let's get you lined up with a lender to talk to, and get that process started so you know where you need to dedicate your time to helping yourself be in the best position to buy a home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's great once you start working with a lender, they show you what credit cards you need to pay off. That was like one of the process. Okay, we need to get your score to this, this level. And it's just like, especially when you are, buying a new home that's a new built, you have that certain amount, like, okay, you have 11 months until closing to, get your credit to this. Just because it's not there doesn't mean you can't buy the house. And I think that's where some people are like, oh, my credit is not where it needs to be. But I think working with the lender, you can get your credit to where it needs to be before closing. And you can get the down payment before closing. Because all you need is the earnest money to put down on the house. But everyone always worries, okay, if I find the house, I have to just have that down payment. And I know previously, before starting this episode, you mentioned that you there's so many things out there. There's so many benefits out there on some people don't have to put down, once they're buying a house. So it's just like, there's a lot out there that is beneficial. It's just asking your agent and asking the right questions to know what's really out there.
Yes, I agree. I definitely think there's so many different loan options out there and it's not a one size fits all, right? Everybody's situation is different. And so there are programs out there that are zero down. There are programs out there that, first time home buyer programs that are even zero down if you qualify. And I think just talking with the right professional in the field, the right lender and the right agent will help you get to that point and to find out the best, program that's out there for you when purchasing your home.
I have a question. Yeah. Is there like a credit score you recommend, like people, or does it depend on how much they would get approved on? Like, so say if someone who got approved for a $400,000 house, should their credit be a certain area compared to someone who only got approved for $300,000 loan?
So there's a lot of factors that are at play when buying a home. Right now, I believe in general, about 740 or higher credit score, you're going to get one of the best rates there are out there, right? Okay. But your purchasing power is based on your income and also your debt. So that's why talking with a lender early is important, because there are things that you can do to maybe have more of your DTI lower to allow you to have a little bit higher mortgage payment. So I think, starting that process early is one of the best things you can do. So, if you need to pay off cars or, and I always tell clients when I first have that conversation with them, don't go and just pay everything off, because sometimes paying those off will actually hurt your credit. And so talk with a lender. They have a system. They can kind of look at the numbers and see, and they'll tell you, hey, pay your Capital One down to $311, not necessarily pay it off. And so I think, that's the best thing that they need to do is just really talk with the lender to figure that out. Okay.
So. I don't know if we were just lucky, but we had a really good relationship with one of our lenders and Ross, right? And I think I literally talked to him. I was doing my own research and I was also emailing him, hey, this is what I found. Can you tell me if we qualify? Can you tell me this? So I think also doing your research on your end and then going to the source to fact check and let you know, because they're there to help you, but if you can do the research on your own too. So I think having your agent and using the source, using the information from your lender, I think is amazing.
Yes. 100%. Yes. Ross is amazing lender.
Yeah, he really is. I went to school, Ross taught me so many information, and he's there to answer the questions too.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's important. My husband is, he got into lending, and I think it's important to have a really good lender that not only, is just there to just, pre-qualify you, but to sit there and teach you different ways and things that you can do, like paying your mortgage. A lot of people don't know that, you can break your mortgage payment up in half and pay it twice a month and cut the interest down, and or making an extra payment a year. I mean, you could, essentially save 8 years off of your loan by doing so. So I really try to partner myself with people who do the same thing. I think it's really the education you learn from it,
Yeah, and it was thanks to April that we found Ross. And
yes. And I was going to ask you, I didn't know how you found me. Was it from your brother? Because I know I helped your family.
I knew you way I was living in Boston. So there was Angie's really big on looking at model homes and just homes in general. So I remember my brother-in-law, GV, he had mentioned you and it was just like, oh, April. So like come here. I didn't even have to look for an agent. So it's important. Word of mouth is just so important. Like we pass. Yes. So other people who I have shared their interest in moving, I was like, yeah, April. Like I don't know anybody else to share with you. So I was very thankful to have both you and Ross through the process, and also piggyback on like what you said about the lender. So certain questions you ask are very important. Like for instance, like buying down your rate is really good.
Yeah, it depends on the situation, I think too.
Yes. So we were like thinking of buying down the rate or putting more towards the mortgage. And Ross is just like, he gave us his opinion and it made sense. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. All right. This is good information. I didn't consider that. Like when you pay down the mortgage, it's just like, it doesn't really make a big difference. Rather, if you apply it towards the interest, in our situation, it was the best. It was best.
Yes. Because really a lot of people don't realize that it takes a huge chunk to make a big difference on your mortgage payment.
It takes
so, if you're not going to be going significantly higher on your down payment, it's not going to make a huge difference on your mortgage. So there may be other ways that you can put that money towards something else. I mean, as a first-time home buyer, sometimes it's the furniture in your home,
Oh yeah.
Because people don't think, oh, you have to, you have a house now, you got to furnish it.
Yeah. I think people forget that because when I think about, okay, I'm in the process of saving for a house, I'm like, okay, so if I want this amount, I'm like, wait, no, I need more than that. Because what am I going to live in just an empty building? Like my mom recently bought a house 3 years ago, and just seeing her go through the process of like, hey, we bought the house, and it's like, oh, we have nothing to put in it. The amount of money you spend to furnish a house. I don't think people factor that in when they're like, what am I saving for the house? Because it's like, if you save a certain amount and you're thinking, I'm going to put all of that towards the down payment, what do you have left to actually put in the house? You're sleeping on the floor because you can't even afford a mattress. Like people don't factor that in at all.
So going off what Tati just said right now, so there are amazing incentives. So how do you go about negotiating for your clients when there's incentives out there? Are the incentives already listed when you go into the house so you know to ask? Or do you just like, hey, I'm just going to negotiate and be there for my client and still ask even if it's not there?
Yeah. So I think it depends on if you're going the resale route or if you're buying a new build. Most builders offer incentives. It's kind of tied to using their lender. But you don't have to use their lender. Sometimes to use those incentives, they'll tell you will, but there's different ways that you can go around it with still using your lender. Resale, I really try to talk to the listing agent if they answer their phone, hence having a good agent who will answer their phone, and really see, if the seller is able to offer any type of concessions. I just got a buyer in contract just last week that the seller was able to pay all the closing costs for a client. Wow. So, a lot of people right now in this market with interest rates being higher and house prices where they're at in the shortage of inventory, people are taking a step back and like, I don't know if I really want to buy a house right now. Everybody's always buying a house. And so you could get the seller to give you concessions, and that will help you, one, either buy down the rate, which in certain situations it makes sense, some it doesn't. Or use that money towards your closing costs. And that's less money you have to have out of pocket. So you can use those funds to furnish your home or whatever else you need to do. Yeah.
Very good. So there's a big debate out here. So you have team renting and team buying.
Yes.
And everyone is just like, it's cheaper to rent. So I'm going to rent. I don't have to deal with a mortgage. I don't have to deal with PMI. I don't have to deal with HOA and everything that factors into it. So what do you have to say about that? People are thinking there's a perfect time to buy. I'm going to wait. I'm going to rent for the next 5 years and then I'm going to buy. Is there a perfect timing to just wait and then buy? Or is it just go for it when you think you're ready?
So renting makes sense for some people, right? Kind of depends if you're going to, I always ask clients, one, again, their financial situation and what the next couple of years look like, because if they are possibly relocating for a job in a year, it may not make sense for them to purchase a home. Yeah. They may want to wait, or if they're finishing college or they're going to have a significant difference in pay. So I really look at the situation and talk with them. I don't want to push anyone any direction. I just want to be a good, resource for them and just give them the information and let them decide ultimately what is best for them. But there are a lot of people out there that think they cannot buy a home, or they're right now in the current market. They're like, well, I'm just going to wait for interest rates to drop. Well, that same house that you're looking at right now, that's $350, could be $425 when rates go down. And then now they said, there was a statistic out there that said about 70% of buyers right now are waiting to purchase a home. So you think about rates dropping, those 70% of people are now going to walk out that door and they're going to all be looking at the same home as you. And then we might be in a multiple offer situation. So that house, some of these first time home buyers right now, they may not be able to afford that house because the higher the house price affects your DTI. So people have to keep that in mind. If you get a pre-approval right now at $350 from a lender, and then you say, I'm just going to wait, interest rates are too high, and then you wait 6 months and nothing changes with your income, you can't qualify for a home. So that's just something to really think about. And I think a lot of people don't realize that.
Wow.
So, I'm an advocate for buying a home if you can, but it has to be the right time. And, and what that time looks like for everyone is different. So I think just talking with a real estate agent or a professional in the field and a lender and really seeing your overall picture. And then you can decide at that point if you think it's best for you.
Question. So if you decide, okay, like I'm just interested, let me see, like, and I meet with the lender just to kind of see, is there a time frame that's okay, I'm meeting with the lender, I have to buy a house by a year, or I can meet with the lender, create a plan, wait until I'm ready, or even if like once you get a pre-approval, is there a certain time frame I have to do this now because I'm already this far in?
Okay, so pre-approvals typically last about 90 days.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So I always tell my clients, have that conversation with the lender. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to apply right now, right? Have that conversation with them, see where that goes. If the lender thinks, it's a good idea for you to go ahead and get pre-approved, they feel pretty confident based off the information you've given them, then you submit your documents to them, they look over everything. And at that point, once you get the pre-approval, you have 90 days. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't buy a house on day 91. You just may have to get a new pre-approval. So, and a lot of people are afraid of, their credit. A lot of people, that's like one of the biggest questions. Is it going to be a hard inquiry on my credit?
Yeah.
Like you can shop lenders during that 30-day period that you're applying. And it's recommended to do so, just talk to a few different lenders. I know I have a handful of lenders that I work with, and so I think just same with real estate agents, talk to a handful of them and see who's fit for you because everybody's personality is different. Right. And so I think, just having that conversation initially with the lender and then going from there to see.
And you don't have to just work with one lender. I call it like dating several lenders.
Yes.
Because we can work with like 3 lenders, whoever has the best offer for you is who you can close with typically, right? Is that correct?
So like when you go to a new build, right? They're always telling you to talk to their lender and their lender has incentives. But for some people, they may not need the incentives because, you think about it, nothing is ever essentially free, right? Some of the money is tacked onto your loan, or you get a little bit higher interest rate going with the builder, using their lender versus maybe going with an outside. So I think really just looking at it and shopping around with at least 2 or 3 lenders is really a good thing for you, especially, when you're going to a new builder and they're talking just with their lender, just talk to a couple outside lenders that are away from the builder as well and have them give you their fee sheets and look at them and see, and then go from there.
Okay.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So there is a large trend of new home buyers.
Yes.
And mainly in Texas, it's very fortunate that you can get resells and you can get new homes.
Lots of growth out here.
Yeah. Lots of
people
growth
moving here.
Yeah. So they're mainly, I can say I do see a lot of like millennials still buying here, which they have a great opportunity. And I think when after closing, I shared how it was such a great opportunity that I was able to do this here because I was also looking in to Boston, and it's just like it's very difficult in different states, right? So what would you say would be the biggest challenge millennials are facing in this market when it comes to home buying?
I feel like a lot of them, well, really it's the lack of inventory, right? And the interest rates, because you have a lot that are delaying marriage. So there's a lot of single. And right now we have a lot of single females purchasing homes.
Hey.
You know,
Hey.
and then we have aging parents as well. So people are looking at all of those options and seeing, you know, what is, you know, I guess what's best case scenario for them or their situation. Yeah, really the inventory and the interest rates and being single. And then there's a lot of them, believe it or not, in Texas, we have a lot of Instagrammers and like influencers and stuff. And so self-employed, they don't understand the process too and what kind of income you have. It's a little bit different for a lender to get somebody pre-approved on the self-employed side versus a W-2.
Yeah.
I would think those are the biggest challenges right now.
I never even thought about that because you're right. Our generation is a generation of entrepreneurship, and it's like a lot of the income based on like the social media factors isn't necessarily consistent. You're not getting a paycheck every single week with the same amount, and it fluctuates. So buying a house with fluctuating income, it's definitely a different perspective for sure.
Very different perspective.
Yes.
So what would you say is the common misconception when it comes to first-time buyers about purchasing or selling a home?
I think the biggest thing is thinking they have to have a large down payment. A lot of people think they have to have 20% down. And that's not the case. Did you think it?
I thought it. I was like doing the math at home.
Because I feel like that's what you always hear. 20%, 20%.
And I'm like, okay, FHA, 3 to 5%. Okay, I could do that.
Yes. I think a lot of people, that's one of the big things. And then a lot of people think, oh, I don't need to have a real estate agent. They go into a builder.
Yeah.
And they think, oh, I can do this, you know, and they don't realize it's so important to have an advocate on your side.
Yeah.
That builder's rep is working for the builder. And, you know, having a professional that knows what questions to ask. I think those are the two biggest misconceptions for people.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, because I thought you just always, why is the number 20 floating around? Like you always hear that number.
Yes. I think my parents did 20%. I don't know if FHA has always been around. I don't even think.
Yeah, there's PMI.
Okay.
And so, you know, if you don't have the 20%, then you have that little insurance that you have to pay monthly. But if you are a first-time home buyer and you're using your FHA mortgage and you decide to go that route, once you get that 20%, you know, say it's 7, 8, you know, a year down the line, you know, you can refinance your home. A lot of people don't realize that. They think when they're buying the home, I hear it all the time. People are like thinking they're going to live in their house for 30 years because the loans are typically 30 years. I'm like, no, the average person lives in their house 3 to 5 years and then they resell. So, you know, when you're out with a first time home buyer and they're looking at everything and they're comparing themselves to other people who are maybe 10 years older than them or their parents, you have to start somewhere. Start with a small home, your needs, as long as it reaches 80% of what you need, you know, the extras are fun, right? Like if there's more of your wants that are checked, then great. But really look at your needs because you can turn around and you can either refinance that house after you move in, or you can stay in that house and rent it out and then, you know, or upsize, sell the house and get a bigger home in 3 to 5 years. A lot of people are just thinking, oh, I have to stay in this house for 30 years. No, you do not have to do that.
Yeah. I think this is what made the home buying when we started looking at homes together. We actually went out with April once. We went out with April once and we found this home once.
It's crazy how that happens. I'll be out with people all, you know, 10, 20 homes later, you know, I joke around though. I always tell clients, I'm like, you're going to find your house within 10 homes because I don't want you to feel overwhelmed and burn out. And that really is a big thing in this industry. I mean, I see it all the time. People are like, oh, I want to see this house. I want to see this house. And when I have that conversation with them and I tell them, what is it that you want in a home? And so I'm looking at their wants and then I go out to the first house with them and then they're telling me what they didn't tell me when we were talking over the phone, you know, the open concept, or I really want a garden tub, you know, or a soaking tub. And so those things I hear when I'm out there. So then when they start sending me properties they think they want to see, I look at it and I'm like, they're not going to want that one. Like it's going to be, you're going to feel it. Like if we see 10 homes in one day, you're going to be like, April, I am so done with this.
Yeah.
You know,
I think we had seen like 2 homes before and we're like, yeah, it's there, but it's not this is not completely what we want. And then you like went on your phone, you're like, boom, 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 pulled up a few things in this area. And then we drove here. We're just like, oh, wait a minute.
This has all of it.
Yeah,
it
this is how all. Yeah, so it's great. Just I think what also helps too is also putting yourself out there, and hey, I don't know if like other states allow you to go see homes without agents and just not speaking to the rep, but just like building your vision of what you want for a home and then talking to your agent, so you can not just like, not say making your job a little harder, because you can't help them if you don't know what they want. So having a list of what you want, so you can tell your agent like, hey, this is what I want. I want an open concept. I want 4-bedroom. I want a walk-in closet. So then it makes your job a little easier for you.
Yes, I definitely recommend writing it down before you even start the process of looking at homes, because so many people, when you get out there, they see different things, and you have to bring yourself back to reality, because, you don't want to be at your max budget if you don't have to, so you really want to focus on that list, go back to it, if it's you and your spouse, write down what, your spouse wants and what you want. And then from there, when you're looking at homes, check it off. I usually print out flyers for my clients, and I tell them on a scale of 1 to 10, when you're looking at homes, write it down, 10 being the best, and what you liked and didn't like. Because when you go back and you look at all the homes online again, you're confusing yourself. You're mixing the homes. So it's super important to go back to that list.
And what would you say are some common mistakes to avoid for first-time home buyers?
Not getting pre-approved first and going out house shopping before they've even talked to a real estate agent or a lender. There's so many people that just on a Sunday want to go look at homes, which is fine, but then, like I had a client one time, it's kind of crazy. She had called me up and she was like, hey, April, I'm here at a builder right now, and I just signed some documents. I don't know what it is. And she knows me because I'm friends with her sister. And she's like, well, I was wondering if maybe you can come and help us. I'm like, well, if you've already gone with the builder, they will not allow me to represent you, because we have to be there at the first appointment.
But no one knows that.
Yes. And so she had no idea what she was doing. And she's like, she quickly backed out. I guess they were getting ready to leave their earnest money deposit. She had no idea what she was doing. And I was like, oh my gosh. So we had that conversation and I kind of talked about her. And so then, it was probably about 3-4 months later, we went out and we looked at properties together. And she was like, this is so much easier being able to be out there with you now and know. So.
Wow.
Yes.
That's insane.
When I think about it now, I think the best thing for first-time home buyer to do is have an agent. I'm telling you, these reps are out here to like bite your head off. Like they're like, they're like rubbing their hands together. Oh, no agent? Okay. Time to fish, like.
Even if you're not a first-time home buyer, there are a lot of people out there that have gone years, and, we're in as a real estate agent, we're constantly getting new contracts, and things are always changing in this market. So, if you've bought a home and it's been 5 years or 7 years, things have changed. And just like for sell by owners, there's a lot of people that think they can sell their home, and there are a majority that can, right? But there's a lot of risk that's involved with doing that. And it's important to have an agent represent you, because if the buyer brings the buyer's agent in, the agent on the seller on their side not having an agent represent them, they don't know the contract very well. Of course, unless they're an agent, themselves selling their own home, which again is still not recommended. But yeah, I think it's important.
And would you say, do you have any challenges as an agent, or do you think that it's just the greatest thing and you love what you do?
Well, I love what I do, but, and a lot of people say, I guess I make it look easy because I really try to keep the stress off my clients. But in the background, I'm over here trying to save deals a lot of the time. My husband can tell you he's inside seeing a lot of it, but, I think even as an agent, it's challenging. So I couldn't imagine going out there without an agent. I really couldn't, I mean, there's a lot of things, we're constantly, so my broker, we have in-house counsel, and there's very few brokerages that actually have a real estate attorney in their office. And I think it's important, we know the contract inside and out, and we are constantly taking classes and constantly learning. And If somebody is just pulling a form off of the Texas, real estate agent commission's website, they don't know what they're signing. I mean, there's times that a lot of my clients, when I send the contract over to them, I'm going over the contract, letting them know what it is that they're signing. Because a lot of times they don't. Yeah. If you just pull it off and you're trying to represent yourself,
it's hard.
It's a little scary.
Yeah.
But people do it. So, and it works for a small percentage.
For sure. And if someone's watching right now and they want to become an agent and they're watching, they're like, wow, it sounds amazing. I would love to do this. Do you have any advice of how to get started on becoming an agent and where to look and what they can do?
I think the biggest thing is getting a mentor. There's classes that are offered online. There's classes that you can go into. I think it depends on the individual and what their situation is like. I worked a full-time job before when I, was transitioning into full-time real estate. And so, I would work all day and then I'd go to class at night. I am more of a learner to be in class versus being online. Yeah. I mean, I can't stand. That's why I have a transaction coordinator. I love her to handle my paperwork. I want to be out. I want to talk to people. So, I would definitely say if they're looking at getting into real estate, they need to talk with an agent who has done this and has experience and have a mentor. There's about 90% rate of agents who fall off in the first 2 years. And we lost, I want to say they said like over 100,000 agents last year or something like that, just the market. I was very fortunate. My business all referral base and I'm a top producer here in Texas. And I was very fortunate to get so many referrals and actually have a really great year last year. And it was my best year. And, so I think it's important. Thank you.
It's amazing working with you. And I can say that from experience. You just have
we had so much fun.
You're such a people person. Like you have just like great energy. So of course you're going to get referrals because it's like, you feel like already the person, you've known the person.
Yeah, I feel like that with all my clients. I feel like I've known you when I first met you.
And the funny thing is that I've heard about you through my brother-in-law, but he never met you.
It was always on the phone.
And we met you before.
And I met him from previous clients that go to his church. Yeah. So it's crazy.
So I was like, hi, April, when we first met you. And it was just like, oh, so I think I congratulate you. A great job on just like, you said this year being your like greatest sell. And I think that, just continue doing what you're doing and just being that people person, just like showing up for them. And I'm just so happy that you were able to be on the podcast with us.
This has been fun. This is my first time. I was like,
you did amazing.
You did.
Like, tell your teenage daughter, like, did you see me on the podcast?
I know.
She told me, she's like, Mom, are you going to be famous? I'm like, oh, God.
So it's great. We're so happy to have you on this podcast.
Thank you.
So if anybody's watching right now, they want to find you, or they want to follow you, can you just let them know where they can find you, subscribe, follow?
Yes. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram. I don't do a lot on TikTok, but I'm starting out. April Sells Texas Homes, and also on Facebook. And you can also follow me at integrityrealtygroupdfw.com. Okay. And you can reach me by phone at 817-909-2044.
Oh, that's great that you give up.
I know.
Anytime.
And she is available. I mean, like, I text her. I was like, hey, April, quick question for you. I'm in this situation. And she like just tells you what to do, which is great. Thank you for being available. Yeah. So our last segment is favorite brand. So I know we talked about this prior. So what is a favorite brand that you like that you would like to share with our audience?
So I guess maybe it's more my daughter's favorite brand of Lululemon, but I've been into yoga lately. So I've been buying more yoga clothes. I would probably say maybe Lululemon. It's so hard to say. There's
that's a great pick. Yeah. It's a great pick. I think Lululemon is so nice, but also very expensive. So it's just like, I'm just building. I haven't started yet. So I know that once I start, I'm going to start making those orders. So I'm like, I'm going to start with one set.
They're expensive.
Yeah.
So I am like looking at other options too, I know my daughter has found some really good stuff off of Amazon. Amazon's great too.
And you can find a dupe of everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like YouTube, right?
Yeah.
You need to fix something, just go to YouTube. But yeah, no, thank you guys so much for having me on.
Of
This
course.
was fun.
Thank you.
great.
I definitely learned a lot. No, 20%.
And when we're back in person again, we'll make sure to invite you and have a part 2. Hopefully by then our audience have listened. They'll have more questions. We'll probably be flooded with questions. We'll make a list of those questions, and then you'll be back to give our audience more information.
Yes, that sounds great. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So thank you all for tuning in to Good Lexus. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. So make sure you guys follow April. And if you guys have any questions, we're happy to also pass the questions to her and we can give you guys some more information. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll catch you on our next episode. Bye everyone.